right. Let's see here. We are good to go. Now, we have an absolute rock star on the show today, and Philipp Schett. Philipp Schett is the founder of Wave 9. He specializes in a business term that I see so few SMBs and digital founders and agencies and legacy builders even know about. Yet it's one of the greatest secrets that unlocked massive success for Intuit and Google. One of the very first investors in Google is one of the original creators of OKRs, is what we're talking about: objectives, key results. We're going to be talking about goals. We're going to talk about unhealthy relationships with goals. We're going to talk about how to make sure that you ultimately have the best chance possible of succeeding as a visionary. I'll bring my perspective. He'll, of course, bring his. We might bring the gloves on at some point and duke it out over goals. But no, I really don't think so. Philipp, you have absolutely impressed me with just your demeanor, the way you've set up your website, the way Wave 9 is going about helping more than 300 brands ultimately set goals the right way and achieve success. So welcome to Vision Pros Live. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for the kind words, and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, Philipp. So let's go to the beginning a little bit. How did you get into this whole OKR space and goal setting? What were things like before the 300 companies that you've helped succeed?
Yeah. So very quickly, people will hear my accent, wonder where I'm from. So I'm
Sure.
German, and I moved to the States in 2014, moved to California, moved to Silicon Valley, and I was actually sent by a German company to Silicon Valley to explore what people are doing there and what great ideas they're working on. I was called an innovation scout. That was my role. And so the idea was, okay, they sent me there. It was 2014, and I figured out, okay, hey, they have this great idea, and then maybe we can implement it in Germany, or maybe we can buy it, or maybe we can do something similar. And so that was the whole idea of my role. And very quickly I realized that, you know, Silicon Valley is awesome, but it's not that the ideas are that much different to the ideas in Berlin or the ideas in London or Paris or Barcelona. Like, people have great ideas there too. But what is different is the ability to execute on those ideas. And then I got like, okay, maybe my whole like belief is wrong here. And it isn't about the ideas, it is about something else. And one little piece that was different is that people were setting very different goals. On the one hand, they were much more ambitious, but they were also much more inclusive, much more transparent, much shorter term, often not set for too long, but rather for shorter time horizons, much more agile, much more with a high urgency for action, and so with a high bias towards that too. And so that's that's at the end how I explored, yeah, how I explored goal setting. And then I met, well, also very typical Silicon Valley story. I met Deidre Packnett, the founder of Workboard. Workboard was a very small but already very interesting goal setting platform, a SaaS company. They scaled, raised 150 million in venture capital, and we became their implementation partner. And so that's how we were able to scale alongside a venture capital backed company. And so that's how I explored OKRs, and that's how I became very, very proficient in them, because we were just able to, well, make a lot of mistakes in the first, let's say, few dozen, and then iterate and learn every time.
I love that. And I'm gonna be super selfish on this for all of us as Vision Pros. How do we become proficient at using OKRs? What are some of the big secrets, Philipp?
Yeah. Luckily, OKRs, and for everyone who hasn't really heard the term, sorry, I'm always forgetting to introduce it. It's objectives and key results. It's very simple. So that's the good news. It's very simple, and so all you need, and you don't need to implement it at 300 companies to become proficient, right? So there's a lot you can learn, and you can do better right away, and you can implement in your organization, no matter the size, right? Even if you're just setting goals for yourself, right? Some of this might already help, but if you have a few employees and a few team members, I'm sure this can help. So objectives and key results, very simple methodology. At the end, you have to have some objectives. That's a qualitative statement, and some key results. That's how you measure you're actually making progress. And so how are you going to get good at it? Let's maybe start with a few things that are typical for goal setting but don't really help. So first of all, you just need to start setting goals. Okay, so that's very, very like super basic, but many of us don't even have goals or aren't really writing them down, or just, oh, and today it's this, and then tomorrow or next week it's something else, right? So first, you want to have very simplistic, a structured process where once a year and then maybe every quarter you are going to set some OKRs. And so that's very important because look, before I discovered OKRs, I was also setting goals, but then I was setting goals sometimes in February, sometimes in April, and then again in May or June, right? And then I was forgetting about all of those very, very quickly too. So you want to set goals. And then if you have a team, don't set goals for your team, set it with them. So I think that's something that's really close to my heart. I'm still old enough to have experienced workplaces where at the beginning of the year the manager came in and said, hey, these are our goals for the year, and now let's go tackle them. And that was typically as energizing as, well, decaffeinated coffee. So that, and really you want a goal setting process to be a double shot of espresso, of really, really good one. And you do that by involving your team. And so that's a slower process for sure, right? If I set goals for my organization, I'm done in an hour, right? That's super quick.
Right.
If I involve everyone, then suddenly I have discussions. Suddenly I have some healthy conflict, maybe even some unhealthy conflict, right? I have all of those discussions. I have to explain things. And sometimes I like that and sometimes I hate it, right? Oh, don't ask me why this is important. It's just important. let's just tackle it.
Sometimes they like it and sometimes they hate it.
Exactly. So you but you have to involve your team. Nothing creates like nothing. You can't really create motivation. You can just destroy motivation and kill motivation in people. And so, and the quickest way to do that is to give them goals that they had no say in, that they don't believe in, that they don't think are the right goals, that they don't think are valuable. And so, yes, at the end, once you've set goals, you need to disagree and commit, right? You need to have everyone in the organization commit to those goals. So that's where, even if you have conflict, that's where it needs to end. But you have to involve them. And then you want to also make those goals transparent. And so that's sometimes a bit of a culture shock for some organizations, but when we set goals, it's clear that they are visible for everyone and that the achievement of those goals is also visible. And so that's transparency that I think is beneficial for organizations, because at the end, well, in good times as in bad times, you want to share how the organization is doing, and that transparency is typically helpful. And so you want to involve people, and you want to make those goals transparent and also the achievement. There are a few more things, but I want to make sure that I give you room to talk to.
Oh, I love it. Oh, no, I love it. I love it. Thank you for that too. One of the things that you said that struck me today in a way that's going to help the rest of my life, in addition to, of course, OKRs and frameworks, you said you can't really create motivation, but you can destroy motivation. And as somebody who has struggled with that process of, as much as I think I have an impact on creating motivation sometimes, I'm so much better at destroying it. And so there's so much wisdom and maturity in what you said that I can apply right away and be like, dang, if I just get a little bit more out of the way as a leader, right? If I just allow my team to speak a little bit more, if I use a line, tell me more about that, right? And I let them facilitate their thing, I'm more likely to create motivation just by ensuring I don't destroy it than if I try to become some type of jester or facilitator of it. Thoughts
Yeah,
on that?
100%. And so when we set goals in our organization, I do it. Try and set very few goals, like
Mhm.
very few. Okay, of course, there's a revenue goal and a bit of a profitability goal, and then there are a few more that are for me important and how we get there. But
Mhm.
then I let the team decide on a ton of almost all of the other goals, and so and that was very
Mm.
difficult for me to learn too. In the beginning, I was a very controlling CEO. I was a very controlling founder. I was basically in every project. I was involved in every decision. And I mean, I couldn't do that for a very long time. And I couldn't do that for, yeah, forever. And it also led to the organization
Yep.
just being very slow. And so a way better approach is to set fewer expectations and then let the team run a ton more. And now I would say my A players have really stepped up and have really, yeah, filled a lot of the vacuum that I left by not filling everything. And
Mhm.
it also became clear who were my absolute C players, right? I
Yeah.
definitely had some of those too, but I was very often creating an environment where that wasn't very obvious because I was there anyway, right? I was in
Right.
every call, I was there anyway. And so you create a better organization by empowering your people, and goal setting is a great way to do that. And
I love
so
that.
and very
It's so
often,
true. I see
yeah.
what you're saying. So
Mm,
you're with the it exposes the C players
mm,
because if you take a back seat and we keep our mouth shut as the founders and we allow our team members to go after the goals, you can see who steps up, you can see who shies away, you can see who doesn't engage in the conversation.
mhm.
I imagine those are some of the things you're alluding to, right?
100%. Now, you of course have to differentiate between someone who's just shy and an introvert and someone who is
True.
shying away from responsibility, right? So
Right.
you have to work in different mechanisms, not only in an open group discussion where obviously some people will feel a bit less comfortable bringing up
Yep.
their ideas. But
For
if you
sure.
have a process that's a workshop, but then it's also maybe some async collaboration in a Google Doc, and maybe you give different mechanisms
Right.
to make your voice heard. If you do that, then it will become very clear who's actually interested in bringing the company forward and who is not.
I'll stack two resources to help on this.
Mm,
One, Patrick Lencioni's book, The Five Dysfunctions of a Team. And if a leader does a great job of applying what's taught in that book, it's impossible not to unlock a sense of healthy conflict and discussion.
mhm,
Two, and even easier to apply methodology. Jeff Bezos of Amazon, in his company meetings, they have the person who is newest to the team speak first, and I thought that was just brilliant and awesome because if everybody else speaks first, that person feels so intimidated and out of place by the end that they don't really feel like they can contribute anything of value. But if you start with the person who's newest and who's most shy, then and if that's the rule that's set, then nobody can step away from saying like, well, they have to at least say, I don't want to say anything.
yeah.
And so it does create some type of engagement. So those are two little secrets that I'll put out there that I've heard along the way. We're going to come back. We're gonna take a little break, but I'm also going to reveal one other thing that you said that really hit me. You talked about how, as a founder, you still stay at the helm, perhaps sometimes or maybe always, of
Mm,
the goals related to revenue and profitability. And I think that's a very important reality because I think sometimes in my past, as a leader, I was so eager to get the team involved and so eager to do the right thing as a leader
mm,
that I ended up shirking some of the responsibility that my team needed me to ultimately weigh in on because imagine it. If you've got somebody who's new or shy or hasn't had a lot of leadership opportunity, and some overbearing founder comes like, okay, it's your turn to set the revenue goal. It's like, what? Like,
Hmm.
I don't want to be responsible for that. I don't want to be the one accountable to make that happen. So I love that you talked about how you still stay in charge of those two dynamics, and probably others. So there's a lot of emotional intelligence baked into this as well. We're going to come back. We're going to reveal more about what it is that we're doing with OKRs, what types of results we've been able to drive with them, some of the ins and outs of things that you might warn companies to not overlook or to not lose sight of in the process, and we'll just keep doubling down on this value, Philip. So thanks for everything you've shared so far, and we'll see you guys all on the other side. We'll be right back. All right, welcome in to Vision Pros Live with Jackson Callum. I'm your show host. We will be doing interviews for visionary entrepreneurs and guest leaders who are building fantastic visions out there. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into another show of Vision Pros Live. I'm your show host, Jackson Callum, founder and CEO of First Class Business, and I'm excited to have Philipp Schett on board today. We're talking about goals that create energy, not burnout. We're going to be talking about, we've got a subtitle on this: what 300 plus companies have taught Philipp and I about setting the right goals, but that's just counting his companies. Too, on my side, it's pretty close to the same, but we've had different levels of companies too. He's worked with companies that have raised 50 million in capital through VC backed, and the only VC backed company that I can recall that I worked with was Own Local back when it was Scene Interactive, and we raised 10 million with Y Combinator. And so we got to learn some really cool things. But I was either young, dumb, and immature and didn't hear about the OKRs back then, or or we didn't actually measure based on OKRs and work with them. And while we were able to get lucky to raise that 10 million and move the brand forward, there was so much that we could have done better. And it would have been neat to know Philipp back when we were starting that. It wasn't until years later, that was in 2009. And it wasn't until 2017, I believe it was 8 years later, where somebody brought up OKRs. And I thought, no, I'm sorry. 2017, we touched on it at Irrational Marketing. Forgot about that. I need to fast forward further. It's 2021 so 12 years later, before somebody meaningfully brought up OKRs that I respected and was like, hey, we should really be implementing these at the company. And I started to really pay attention to that. It's only 5 years ago, or really probably 4 years ago, where I started to say, you know what, I need to look into this. And as I did, I uncovered some super powerful truths about how Google is building their brand, how Intel builds their brand. And then I discovered Philipp along the way with the show as well. So I cannot say enough about the importance of this subject, but I really want to make sure that's teed up so that all of you pull your notebooks out, pull your paper out, because this guy, Philipp, he's not only been helping all these companies on it, but he's been writing a book, forget this, more than 10 years, not 10 minutes with ChatGPT, more than 10 years. He's been putting time and effort into this book to help companies. And one of the other big things that Philipp brought up while I was talking to him in our pre-show and our first session was that as he's come to as a consultant in the United States from Germany, imagine how hard it is to make a name for yourself and to help prove to the companies the importance of your value when you are an immigrant, and that you got to prove your worth. You got to help people see the value. And so I really respect the amount of diligence, tenacity, and the amount of personality that he brings to the table as well with all of this. So I'm about to bring him back on before I do a couple of other very important resources for each of you. Journey to Wellness with Dr. Shannon and Dr. Justin Pierce. We're in the middle of rebranding to drshannon.com. She's got over 250,000 followers. And one of the most important ones in this regard would be myself. Why? Because I've known them for 8 years, and I've sent, I want to say 4 people. I know 3 for sure that I can think of their name, who had chronic or serious health issues that they didn't have any answers for. And after I asked them how to go with Shannon, they just raved. They were like, oh my gosh, I've never had this clarity about my health before. I have a track, I have a path, and I got to see firsthand their experiences. Now, Shannon predominantly helps women with their health, things like brain fatigue and brain fog and anxiety and things of that nature. So if you know somebody that might need help from that, go ahead and check out what Dr. Shannon and journey to wellness are up to. Then we have Practice Makes Permanent with Jennifer Reed. And if you're like Philipp Shett, and you've got brands out there who are working towards improving your culture and creating transformation, Practice Makes Permanent. Jennifer helps with that. She's a facilitator for making sure that cultures continue to improve in companies. She's got an incredible amount of connection to emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence as well. She has a very strong personal mission behind this as well. She got into this because, one, she spent a few decades, and she's still there working at the IRS, where company culture is not exactly the easiest thing to build out. But she brings an incredible energy to what she's up to. But Jennifer lost her son to suicide just over a year ago, and that realization of, man, there's more that she knows that she can do as an individual to help individuals not go through that type of loss and experience. And she wants to help make sure that these cultural environments improve as well, because all the people that exist in cultures, they have families as well that she wants to be able to impact. So I know of nobody better than her to help make sure that we're moving this world in a direction of uplifting souls, creating better emotional intelligence, creating better awareness too of spirituality. And so if you're looking for somebody to help with that, I do highly recommend Jennifer. Then there's the Water Project up here. The Water Project is something that is near and dear to my heart because I choose for it to be. I've never personally been thirsty in my entire life, no matter where I live. I'm down in Ecuador right now. I don't have any shortage of water. These individuals in Africa, these are parents who have to leave their jobs in order to find water for their kids. Their kids have to leave school in order to go get water for the community. And you never know what type of water they're getting. We have a huge opportunity to actually pick which project we want to support through the Water Project. Once we contribute to it, we actually get to see the outcome of this as well. I love this nonprofit. I love what they're up to and how they do it. I look at the pictures of these kids, and I see kids celebrating water the way my kids celebrate Christmas Day. And that's a very humbling experience. So if you're in a position to financially give back, you might join the monthly club that I'm in on there as well, just giving a little bit every month to see what we can do to help the millions of people who need it most in this world. And as long as I rock this microphone, I'm going to be doing that. But I know that there's 8 billion people to help in this world. Those of you listening that don't have the financial means, my hope is that you just drop a link for a cause that matters to you. I will personally take a look at that cause and see what it's about. I might talk about it on here, and we'll see what we can do to help. But if all of us come together, you never know what type of impact we can have on the 8 billion people out there. So without further ado, we're going to get back to helping each one of you. And we're going to talk about these goals that create energy and not burn out, and how to do that as a company. So without further ado, Philipp, welcome back on the show. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So the Water Project, I bet they know a few things about setting OKRs. They've done a pretty good job of setting up what they're up to. Those goals, they create energy for me. What do you do to help other entities create high energy goals? What are some things that can be done?
Yeah. You know why I'm still involved in setting the revenue goal and the profitability goal is that they are super low energy goals. And I don't want a team. Yeah, no, absolutely. And they are absolute dangerous goals. There's very little value in setting a revenue, like in setting a revenue goal. It's something that every organization kind of needs and everyone does. But what's the difference if I set a goal of 50 million in revenue or 500, right? The difference is, I mean, my team would, in both cases, we're a bit smaller. So in both cases, my team would look at me and say, like, you're hallucinating, and you must be out of your mind. And so I would just demotivate the team. And then and there are so many organizations that set this revenue goal, and then for a year they are hunting it and they are trying to get to it, and it's always too high, and it's just always out there. And so that's so demotivating. And because I have some very ambitious, luckily I've had some very ambitious team members, they would always set the goal too high. And I always have that discussion, oh, why is the revenue goal this low? Well, I want to hit it, and I don't want it to demotivate anyone, and I want this at least to be a very realistic goal. So revenue goals are pretty terrible goals because they
I love this conversation. I have never expected this. I've never heard this, and it makes me want to ask. So, Philipp, do you even share the goal with the team then, or do you just keep it to yourself? What is the secret behind that? Because
Yeah.
that's like crazy, but I love it.
I shared with the team, but it's just it doesn't matter that much over the like of course money is like fuel, right? Or like oxygen. And
Yeah.
and so an organization just needs it. But it's if you're a runner, like setting a goal for more oxygen in your blood is just like it's not valuable, right? It doesn't add much. And so yeah, I share it, but I'm very careful about not setting it too high. And there are many more goals that are much more valuable, much more directional, much more energizing also in the short term, right? Because if you if you are a business like us and we sell to larger brands, it means our sales cycle is relatively long. And so until if we make a change in our marketing, if we make a change in our product, and we would only and in our offering, if we would only measure it by revenue, the delay between okay, we make a decision and we learn that the decision was right would be way too long. And that's why
Hmm.
if you only set a revenue goal and you only steer the organization with that revenue goal, it's in my opinion, it's a very terrible way of motivating. It's very demotivating for your
It's very
team. And
demotivating.
so it's yeah, it's just I'm not a big fan. And so yes, we still have one, because it's easier to set one and then set it lower and have people achieve it, and then have people have more
Sure.
flexibility and say in how we achieve it than to not set it at all.
So where are those secret goals then? The energy ones, the ones that
Yeah,
get people going. What do those look like?
yeah. So look, one of the more energizing goals is that I want people to reach out to me after a podcast, right? So
Mm.
that's a goal that I have. And so and luckily yesterday, for example, no, it was actually before this show, someone was reaching out because they heard me on another podcast and was asking, hey, can you join us on this podcast? And that's something that I love. And it always only happens when we have a good energetic conversation, and we don't
Mm.
always just agree on something, but maybe it's not about agreement or disagreement, but it is about having an actual
Honest
exchange.
exploration. Right.
Exactly. And not just that. And I can go absolutely in autopilot, right? I can go in
Yeah.
autopilot and just talk the same phrases that I always say, and it will sound okay. And if
Sure.
and if the counterpart isn't actually listening, they will also say the phrases that they always say, the typical business phrases, and that's easy, right? And I can make a tick box for I did 15 blogs, I did 15 podcasts, right? This
Yep.
this year, and that's an easy. But it's way harder to do podcasts that actually make people say, "Oh, this is this is actually something that I want to learn more about, or that I want to
Huge.
also interact with." And so, an energizing, a bad goal is just an activity goal. Oh, I'm on 15 podcasts, or I write a book, or I write a blog, or I do this and this and this. And a way better goal is to say, what do I actually want to achieve with this activity? And then you set the goal there. And that's way better, because then you can choose the activities more smart, but
You
you
can
can
do
also
something with it.
yeah, exactly. And so
I
that's
can take specific actions. So
Mhm,
this is something that we ran into with a lot of our podcast guests, where when we talk to them about their goals, if their goal is like, well, I just want to reach more people, or I
mhm,
just want to teach somebody, like I can't really do much more to help them
mhm.
and support them on that. But you just named something that calls me out in an important way. You said you want to reach more people. You want people to reach out to you after the podcast. So it's
Yeah,
interesting because it's not something that you have direct control over,
mhm,
but you do have influence over, and what are you doing to influence it? So
yeah,
like this is such a great example, because I was sitting there as you said that, I was like, oh crap. I was regretting we went live and
Mhm.
I've limited us down to YouTube on purpose because I don't want the episode hitting multiple places at the same time. I don't think that's necessarily in favor for the algorithm, but I was like, man, I should have freaking done an announcement post. And I should have talked to the team about that. And we're getting all of our ducks in order for the year, and we're trying to get all things going smoothly. But I botched that. And
Yeah.
you just called me out in a good way, on a healthy way. So now I'm thinking like, well, wait a second. I can get I can get Philip introduced to Dr. Lance Knob. I'm definitely doing that. That way you can go on his hot seat experience. I can get you introduced to Dr. Shannon and Dr. Justin. They've got an upcoming event next to Richard Branson's island. I don't know the name of the island, but the
Yeah.
business owner who has it has invited them to speak at it. I bet that network's really great. Jennifer Reed from Practice Makes Permanent, right? But it
Mhm.
just put me into action. It made me think like,
Nice.
how can I help Philip on this, because he deserves it and he's working
Yeah.
towards it, and what else can I do to make sure that I can do this for my other guests and for myself. So it was a very energizing goal. Well done.
Love it. Love it. An energizing goal drives action, right?
Yeah.
That's I think a good summary.
I want another.
So okay, what other energizing goals do I set for this year? And so I am so I'm publishing my book, right?
Yeah.
Publishing the book is boring, right? I
It's an
mean,
outcome.
it is, yeah, it's really like everyone can publish a book nowadays, right? So it's actually relatively easily achieved, and if I write it with ChatGPT, right, I'm done in a couple days. So writing that book is relatively boring. But what would be energizing with the book? And so energizing with the book would be, well, that I have a few good reviews, but that also people hate it. Like, I'm not gonna set a goal for 1-star reviews, okay? But, you know, if no one hates this book, then I know that I probably just have written the same stuff that everyone's writing, and that no one and that is that's agreeable, and that is just stuff that everyone that it wouldn't be an opinion piece, and it wouldn't be something that actually makes anyone think twice.
Mm.
And so if I only have good reviews, then it's probably only because, well, well, because only a few friends have read the book, right? But if I get some honest and actual reviews, and so it's not 5-star. I don't want only 5-star reviews, but I want people to actually read the book. And yes, if I get a few 5-star reviews, then great. But I also want a few actual people to disagree with me, and that's an energizing goal. Even though, of course, I don't want, like, I'm not setting an actual goal for 1-star reviews. But
Sure.
yeah,
I'll double down on that though.
yeah,
I'll create some conflict on this one.
good.
So because I love what you're doing.
Mm,
I love the OKR reality of like, and I want your book to succeed. And so I appreciate your humility on the few reviews, but
mm,
I'm looking at that and like, well, wait a second. This is a 10-year legacy book. And I have a hard time with my guests
mm,
who only have a few reviews on their book, because most of them meant to publish with far more dynamic results
yeah,
than that. And so, especially when they come on, they're like, I'm an international bestseller selling author. And I'm like, your book is free. I'm very sorry to call you out on it, but like that's not okay. Or they're like, oh, I have 300 clients, and they end up with, the book's published for a year and a half and they've only got 3 reviews on it. And
yeah,
I'm like, where did the 300 clients go? Where's your mother? Can't she leave a review?
yeah,
And I don't mean fake it, of course, but if you wrote a book about life, then it's okay that your mom did write a review on it. And so
yeah,
it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, I can understand steering away from the metric aspect of it. And
yeah,
I love that you talk about getting that conflict sense in there too, of like, well, I want people to really appreciate this or really not appreciate it, because it tells me they at least took interest into hearing me out.
yeah.
Right. Even if they disagree, that means they had to have taken interest in it.
Yeah.
So that's it. I
True.
like that engagement.
Yeah,
What else would you
so
add?
if I would give it a metric, I would probably say I would probably stay away from I want 100 5-star reviews, right? But I would say I want 100 reviews. I want 100 actual
Mhm.
reviews of the book, of people that actually read it, because honestly, that would be a success
It's
for
respectable.
me.
It's hard
For
to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's a niche topic, right?
Yep.
It's not gonna be a bestseller because it's such a niche topic, but that's
Right.
okay. But as if
Yeah.
people in my niche and in this, yeah, in that are interested in this are reading it and reviewing it, then I would be excited and
Absolutely. That's
energized.
that's great.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll also bring up an opportunity for you to engage in conflict with me on this. So we've more studied the OKRs from the outside perspective, and we've had some great results with companies. Don't get me wrong. I mean, helping Dr. Eckberg go from 160,000 subscribers to 14 million plus, and helping Laserway expand from 8 locations to 40 plus locations. All these results we did. I don't want to say without OKRs. I think individually, most of us had an idea of the concepts, or we were building goals. We're goal oriented in some way or fashion. So those of you who are brand new to OKRs, I guess my invitation is to you, like, it's okay to be brand new, and to be pioneering the process. And thanks to things like ChatGPT, we can put together even better plans to build upon it.
Mhm.
I'm going to give one more shout out real quick before I show the resource we built to Ramit Sethi, who I've never met. He's friends with Jake Larson at Video Power. And Jake said he's one of the best copywriters that you can study. So I went and studied his website. I will teach you to be rich.com. Probably the most spammiest sounding website I've ever heard of. And so I'm studying Ramit and what he's up to years ago. And I came across his guide, The Ultimate Guide to Habits. And in The Ultimate Guide to Habits, he talked about the big problems that we face with goals. And he went to Stanford, and one of these interviews, he was interviewing a Stanford professor, and he said something that resonated so well to me. He said most people give up on their goals and they set these resolutions and things because they have an unhealthy relationship with goals and goal setting.
Yeah.
And he correlated that to the people who set these workout goals to lose weight. And after the month or two that they kind of given up or didn't start and do their thing, they beat themselves up and they feel bad that they didn't hit their goal. And I love how much energy he put into it and how much energy I'm putting into, how much energy you put into these high energy goal aspects. I mean, you're setting something that you have never done before in most cases. It's like you're not meant to hit it, but
Mhm.
you can measure what did you do to get there, and you can enjoy the journey and realize, like, okay, well, if I didn't know how to fly a plane or how to build a plane ever before, and I actually succeed at it, even if it's kind of like a floppy flight, like you did something you've never done before. That's freaking cool, or you at least tried to do it. So that's one of my biggest secrets about goals for myself is I never get mad at myself for learning in the process. I'm always looking at what did I learn? How am I going on this? So I'm gonna share a document real quick. I'm gonna do this
Mhm.
as fast as I can too, because you guys can pause this. I'm gonna go back and look at it too. But I'm gonna see if this is in somewhat alignment with what Philip's up to, or Philip's gonna be like, dude, that's freaking crazy. What are you thinking? And Philip, feel free to hit hard on this. So at First Class Business, for all of our clients, we need to be doing this now. Next admission, we have stopped for a while. So it's time to get back on the horse. Today's the day. We're getting back on the horse for this. And this is primary objectives. We call these OCROs, primary objectives, key results, and outcomes. And
Mhm.
there is a big difference for us between the key results and the outcomes. And so following this document is designed to help us define our combined primary objective key results so we can ensure that all of our efforts to advance our projects are in alignment with the desired outcomes. And so there's a previous step here that we need the preliminary business evaluation. And there's a training video associated with how this works. And so I'll try to drop these resources into the comments so that you guys can play with this if you see fit. And it talks about following the instructions for setting it up. And it talks about the what. What is a primary objective? And it is ultimately the what are you doing? And then there's these key results, the how do you do it? And it tells you, don't set more than 2 to 5. A key result must be measurable as they're not a key result. And that comes from Google's investor that created the process. All right, so we're going to go past some of this down to the outcomes. What is the
Mhm.
outcomes to me? The outcomes are the why. Why did we set these primary objectives and key results? That may seem easy to determine and define for yourself, but even then, studies show that we are less likely to resolve and to complete our objectives when we're not consciously aware of the benefits of putting in the work. So the challenge with that magnifies when we have a team. The stronger and more defined your outcomes, the more committed you and your team end up becoming to ensure that the hard work gets done. So when we're talking about outcomes, what I'm referring to is adding a layer of gratitude, basically a gratitude journal. We set this goal to make 20,000. That's the boring one that Philip was talking about. Then we got the key results of what's going to determine that. We got 5 new clients at $5,000 each. But the gratitude log is like, and now I was able to take an extra day's vacation. I was able, our team came together and we worked on this, and we got not just a testimonial, but this client is so grateful that their family's life has improved because they're now working with us. I'm obviously inventing some things here, but as you go through this of, I will do this as measured by, we're adding on, this will unlock, and these are those outcomes I'm talking about. What is it that we're achieving thanks to this process, personally and in business? So that's our breakdown of how we measure our OCROs and how we go about
Mhm.
this process. It may provide some value to you guys. Philip, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Our word, we use tiny bit different definitions, but something
Mhm.
very similar. So in our language, the OKRs, the key results are the outcomes, but we have
Okay.
a layer above them, and that's our impact. And the impact is exactly what you're describing here as the outcome. So that's really just a way, well, and a matter of definition, right? And how you,
Sure.
but it's very, very similar. At the end, we're trying to hit this goal measured by, and that will change something in the world. And so that's that's the impact. And so if you if you take the water project, for example, right, then
Yep.
maybe the goal is to increase fundraising from international sources, and their key result might be, well, $1 million from Germany, hopefully. And then the impact would be, well, that would provide drinkable water for 10 million people or however many people, right? But that would be a bit of how we would define this impact.
I would love that. I
Yeah.
love that. And one, you were so diplomatic. None of that came across as conflict. And so I call you out for being a nice guy, and respecting the process we have. But I did catch you say that you have different definitions
Yeah.
for objectives and key results. I'd love to hear that what those definitions are, because I've always kind of
Yeah,
wanted to
so
know
so we
this.
define so we define the key result really as the outcome that you're trying to drive. And so yeah, the objective is the is the description of our goal and the qualitative statement. And so we are trying to bring water to more, we are bring drinkable water to more people
Mhm.
through fundraising in Germany. I think that would be our objective. And then the key result is 100 or 10 million euros in raised in Germany. And then the impact would be, okay, that's creating drinkable water for 1 million people. That would be how we would define our terms.
That's so interesting, because it can be broken down multiple ways. And does that ever create like confusion amongst a team? Like, well, wait, is this a what, or is this a how? Do you guys ever go through that? Because I find myself going through that way too often.
Yeah, sure. It does happen. Like, yes. And so that's also where I'm not dogmatic and more
Mm,
pragmatic. And it's not, oh, you're not filling out this form for Philip and you need to hit it. The exercise isn't to make the goal setting guru happy, right?
mhm.
the goal of all of
Right.
this is that you and your team feel energized, and that your team have clarity on what you need to do today and why you're doing it, and that you can prioritize the right actions, and then feel motivated to go towards them. And so that's why I'm never like,
I
oh,
love
but
that.
this isn't a great key result, right? That's not really a helpful feedback.
That's not the point.
Yeah.
I freaking love that. You just unlocked something in me because I think subconsciously my ego does associate with this. So as soon as you said this is not about making the goal setting guru happy, I was like, oh shoot, like I'm
And
probably so guilty of that.
it happens so often, right? Then you go into a room and then everyone wants to get the OKRs beautiful, but hey, not the point.
Dang, man, I
Mhm.
love that. That's gonna have a very big impact on my year. Thank you, Philip.
Yeah,
This
I'm glad.
this has been awesome. This has been so good, and it's it is fairly easy for me to get energized about the goal process, and sometimes that energy can be used in a way that ego ends up demotivating others. And so we've got to be careful as people who are goal oriented of being more inviting and more inspiring to those who may not be as brought into that process. And the demeanor, the approach, the leadership that you've just graced me with today is going to help me shift a lot in relation to that. And I hope other vision pros, out there, you guys learn to pick up some of these things as well. The takeaway for myself on this is that there's no wrong way to eat a Reese's, right? There's no wrong way to really set a goal unless that goal is demotivating, unless it's pulling the energy away and ultimately disrupting the journey. And so that's my final takeaway on this, my fortune cookie to the world. If you had a fortune cookie of the world, Philip, or you had one final thought that this was the last time you got to speak and share something about goals and creation and helping visionaries, what would it be?
Yeah. Set goals not as contracts, but as opportunities for learning. And then go and learn and improve and get better. And then the world will be yours. It's good. It's going to be good.
I love that. And visionaries, as you do that, as you write that down and get ready to do that, click on the button on visionproslive.com that says be our guest and come and share those goals with us. Come and share the vision of what you're up to and what you're creating, because that's really what this is all about. It's empowering you to get out there and do it and find yourself in a circle of mentors and friends and leaders and people who want to help bring that together. And we look forward to seeing you guys all in the next episode. Philip, again, thanks for all of the wisdom that you shared with us, and best wishes with Wave 9 and with your family and with your book publishing and everything else you're up to.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys. We'll see you guys all in the next episode. Peace.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision.